Well, that's the news so far tonight. Here's Brandon now with the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Dundee United head coach Tam Courts has called for consistency in the SFA's retrospective punishment process. Now a precedent has been set. It comes after midfielder Callum Butcher accepted a 3-match ban following a disciplinary panel review for a challenge that originally received a yellow card. Here's Stephanie Daly.
This was Callum Butcher's challenge on Celtic's David Turnbull that was the subject of a review by the SFA's disciplinary panel. After receiving a yellow card at the time, the United midfielder yesterday accepted a 3-match ban. While boss Tam Courts understands the reasons for the review, he's calling for consistency when it comes to retrospective punishments in the future.
The only thing from our perspective is probably how flawed the retrospective process is, and also the need for consistency moving forward, because I think in this situation for us as a club there's been a precedent set, so it'll be interesting to see if that consistency is maintained. And probably the only thing as well from a player care perspective, there seems to be a bit of a vilification of Callum Butcher which sits uneasy with me. But in terms of the incident itself, we can understand why it's been looked at. I don't think there was any malice in it, but it's something that we just want to move forward from, protect our player, and also recognise that we don't want these top young players at other clubs to be endangered either.
It's Butcher's second suspension in recent weeks, and Courts admits he's spoken to the 30-year-old, who will now miss the next 3 games against Livingston, Rangers and Hibs.
It's disappointing to lose such an experienced player, a player who really kind of fits the way that we want to play, particularly this time of the year. So it's disappointing. I have had a chat with Callum, and naturally he's very, very low, because it almost kind of feels like that there has been a bit of a vilification of Callum, and he isn't actually that type of player. He's not that type of person, and I think it's obviously disappointing from that aspect. And he's a footballer that wants to play, and we're going to miss him for 3 games. But again, it's been looked at. They've looked at it under the guise of endangering an opponent, so let's just see if there's transparency and fairness moving forward as well.
On the injury front, Dylan Levitt could make his return in Saturday's visit of Livingston, while Mark McNulty is making good progress. Stephanie Daly, STV News.
Well, elsewhere in the Premiership, an Aberdeen manager, Stephen Glass, says he's happy his side have cut down on individual errors which have cost them over the course of the first half of the season. The Dons have 2 wins from 2 in December, including this decisive 4-1 win over St Mirren on Saturday. St Johnstone are the opponents this weekend, where the Reds want to continue their form. Now, Hibernian are looking for a new manager after sacking Jack Ross today, just 10 days before they face Celtic in the League Cup final. The club say they made the decision following a prolonged run of poor results. Well, here's Sheila McLaren.
Well, Hibs might be in the League Cup final, but in the Premiership they're on a dismal run of form. Last night's defeat at Livingston took them to 7 defeats in 9 games, and that was enough for the Hibs hierarchy. Jack Ross was told after the match that he was being relieved of his duties, and this morning he said goodbye to his former players and staff before leaving the Hibernian training ground for the final time. Hibs Chief Executive Ben Kensell released a statement saying they'd made the decision following a prolonged run of poor results, but thanked Jack and his assistant John Potter for their hard work and dedication, and for giving them highs, including reaching 2 cup finals and finishing 3rd in the league last season. First team coach David Gray will take interim charge of the team while a search for a successor gets underway. Former Hamilton boss Alex Neil worked with Kensell at Norwich and has been linked with the job, while owner Ron Gordon, who is currently at home in the USA, is understood to be keen on considering looking at bringing in a manager from overseas.
It'll be interesting to see who gets that job. Now, both Old Firm clubs are in European action this evening. Rangers have already qualified for the next stage of the Europa League. It's currently goalless between them and Lyon in France. Meanwhile, Ange Postecoglou says it's a good opportunity for fringe players to impress when Celtic face Real Betis tonight. Celtic can't qualify for the knockout stages, but Postecoglou says he'll look to utilise his full squad. Finally to the Championship, and Inverness manager Billy Dodds has labelled facilities at Greenock Morton as a disgrace and an embarrassment to Scottish football. In their Scottish Cup replay defeat on Tuesday, Callie had to change in a porta cabin behind one of the stands. This was due to COVID reasons. The Highlanders were left in the cold and dark when a generator failed. Morton say they've applied to Inverclyde Council for better facilities. Inverness travel to Capello again this Saturday, and today Dodds pulled no punches.
It's a no-brainer. It shouldn't happen. It was every word I used. Disgusting, just freezing, damp. There's a treatment table in the porta cabin, but my physio can't see the actual injuries. It's a scandal. What is happening here? This could be one of the biggest embarrassments for Scottish football, but for Morton especially.
What will happen if you turn up and it's exactly the same as it was? What will you do?
There's a chance the game won't go on. Simple as that.
It's fair to say that was a fiery press conference with Billy Dodds. We'll keep an eye on that and see what happens over the coming days. Well, that's all from me this evening. Chris will be back here tomorrow. Join him then if you can.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.